Today we're going to be talking about India's very own ICAI's Chartered Accounting Qualification, the oldest, the most popular, the most known, most valued qualification when it comes to this field. The first part I have made is on ACCA, of course, which is what I have studied and what I know more than anything else about. If you've not seen that, please check it out and let's jump into part 2 of this series. Having been in the finance and accounting field for so many years, people always still end up asking, should I do CA or should I do ACCA or CFA or CMA or CPA, etc. And our standard answer is this. First, decide yes or no on CA. If the answer by any chance is no, then you have multiple choices that you can select. But otherwise, the Indian CA qualification is probably the best finance and accounting qualification that you can pursue in India. It is still considered the number one, and it's the only one which has what we call signing authority in India. In this video, we're going to figure not only about the details of this course, but as many of you all know, the rules have changed in 2023, and how is it going to apply to all of y'all from May 2024. We're going to cover all the changes, and most importantly, at the end of this, we're going to cover, is the CA qualification the right path for you or not? So if this is the first time you're visiting our channel, then please click subscribe, and if you find any value in this video, give us a thumbs up. And as part of our mega series, in this video as well, I will be asking you 3 questions across the video, and the top people who will end up answering it, we will be selecting one of you guys and giving you all any of our Zell qualifications entirely for free. Let's jump into it. First, let me introduce CA in a very broad sense, which many of the students actually don't know. So the Indian CA qualification is run by a body called ICAI, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And this is the only body in India which has the right to produce Indian Chartered Accountants. And an Indian Chartered Accountant is the only one who has the right to sign and audit balance sheets and profit and loss accounts of Indian companies. So CA have a very unique position, which is more or less what we call statutory. The government itself has given the powers to the ICAI body, and that is why CAs are so reputed. Over and above the exams being difficult, they are the only ones who have certain powers in India, and that's why there's so much value for CAs. Alright, let's come to the power of CA when it comes to India. We all know that no matter what city in India, or what stage of your career, or how many attempts it took you, if you are calling yourself a chartered accountant, you will not have a problem when it comes to getting a job. Of course, it might vary depending on what kind of company, what kind of profile, and what kind of salary. For example, somebody who is a CA topper, who has cleared everything in one go and goes to work after the articleship in the Big Four, for example, his or her package can be north of 12 lakh, 15 lakh, depending on the situation. An average CA who clears everything in the first attempt and works in one of these MNCs, his or her salary package can range anywhere between 8 to 10 lakhs in the beginning. And if somebody is working in a smaller firm or has failed multiple times, his salary might be lower than 6-7 lakh, depending on this, again, the circumstance. But that being said, CAs are in a position to open their own CA firms. They can work in completely consulting-based roles in FNA, like finance and accounting companies and their roles. They can work, I think every other brand requires chartered accountants within them to work. So if you, let's say you want to go and work at the corporate level in companies like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or Swiggy or Google, all of them require CAs. And finally, if you want to get into entrepreneurship, I don't know any other field except for probably tech. I don't know any other domain where more people have attempted to start up something of their own than chartered accountants. And the reason is because CA forces you to see everything from the lens of finance and accounts. It forces you to look at businesses and make decisions which are completely to do with numbers. And when you are looking at the world through numbers, you're very good at structuring things. You're very good at understanding when to take certain decisions, because you try to quantify as much as you can, right? And that helps you become very objective. It's like data which you've learned to look at anything, convert it into data, and then helps you make decisions. So that ability to structure and look at the details, I think that helps tremendously if you ever want to get into entrepreneurship, or even if you want to help other businesses where you're advising the CEO or the board members or the founders. Having grasp on numbers is, I think, it's going to become a necessity for all of us in the future. Let's quickly get into the nitty-gritties for students. First and foremost, the eligibility. So CA, bottom line is, as long as you've given grade 12, you can start your CA. Now, if you've graduated from college, you can get one of the levels exempted, and we'll come to that in a bit. All right, now let me get into the academic structure. So as everybody knows, CA has 3 levels: CA Foundation, Inter CA, and Final CA. Now, some of these have had massive changes back in 2023, which was probably the largest change that CA has done since its inception. So CA Foundation is still the same. 4 subjects comprising of accounts, economics, law, and maths. And you have to score a total of 200 on 400, which is exactly 50%. Next comes your Inter CA. Inter CA earlier had 2 groups with 7 subjects. Now it has 2 groups with 6 subjects in it. The first group comprises of tax, which is split into direct and indirect tax, accounts, and law. And the second group comprises of costing, FM, and audit. After you're done with your Inter CA, you start your articleship, which earlier was 3 years. Now it's become 2 years. Remember, you have to work in a CA firm, or at least you should work in a CA firm, because that's where they actually take you through the grind. And while you might be doing your articleship, you might hate it, just like most students do. But the benefit it has in the long term is undeniable. Question number 1. In which attempt does the new CA syllabus kick off? Besides this, and before you start your final CA, you actually have a couple of new things introduced. The biggest change is self-paced online modules. For the first time in CA, you have to give these modules mandatorily, but they are not really marked in the exams. And what are these about? Well, there are 4 sets of online modules. The first one is to do with law. The second one is to do with costing. And between 3 and 4, as you can see on the screen, there are multiple options. You have to choose any one between each set. Along with your self-paced modules, you also have to go through these trainings of IT and soft skills. This was again there in the past, but now it's become slightly different. Remember, it is going through training for IT and soft skills. Next, and finally, after all of this effort, you come to the most important part, which is your final CA exam. Final CA earlier had 2 groups and 4 subjects each. And now there are 2 groups with 3 subjects each. The first group has, again, accounts, financial management, and audit. And group 2 has direct tax, indirect tax, and a new subject which is to do with integrated business solutions. And I think honestly, this is a great important point which was brought up as a subject. What is eliminated overall are the ones which have gone into self-paced module, which is your costing and your law exam. And finally, if any of you all remember, there was a subject called ICAI, which every final CA student hated. That's also not there in the new CA curriculum. So this covers the entirety of the CA modules across all the 3 levels. Question number 2. Which subjects in final CA have changed from the past syllabus to this new syllabus? And now let's come to the exam window. The CA foundation exams occur every June and December, whereas Inter CA and Final CA occur every May and November. So all exams happen twice a year. Next, it comes to the entire duration of the exam. So even right now, if you start your foundation after grade 12, it will still take you around 4.5 years to complete the entirety of the CA qualification all in one go. So what we recommend students is aim at 5 years, right? CA is not something you can be utterly sure of. Like you would go to an MBA college, or even if you pursue these CA equivalent qualifications, you have a sense it'll take you a year, 2 years, 3 years on average. With CA, the aim for every student is first attempt, which is 4.5 years. But then the average goes on to 6-7 years. So you'll just have to be aware about this point. Next, when it comes to the passing rate. Now we all know that CA's passing rate is extremely low, which is why it's such a reputed course in itself. So the CA passing rate is generally in single digits when you talk about the entire course. Out of 100 people who start, a very, very small chunk actually land up completing all the 3 levels. Probably less than 1%. But when you look at each level, I think foundation is around 20-25% passing. Inter CA is around 10% passing, and final CA is a little less than 10% passing. Here as well, if you give each individual group, the passing can go slightly varied. So, long and short of it is, think about the passing of the entire CA qualification as less than, in single digit percentage, way less than 10%, maybe even just 1 or 2% to be safe. Finally comes the passing mark. Now, unlike an ACCA exam where every paper you have to score 50 on 100, the Inter CA and Final CA passing is a little complicated for those who don't know. In IPCC or inter-CA, let's say you give one group. You have the option, first of all, of giving one group at a time or two groups at a time. Let's say in this example, you give one group. So you give 3 exams. On 100, that's a total of 300. Now, you need to score a total of 150, which is 50%. But in each of the exams, you also need to score 40 marks on 100, which means in one paper, you can score 40 on 100. The other, you have to score 60 on 100. And the third, you have to score 50 on 100 for you to pass the whole group, because then your total is 150, and individual papers you've cleared 40 plus. If any paper you miss 40 marks, or you pass all the papers but you don't achieve what we call the aggregate marks, you will have to appear for the entire group again. And the same logic applies for final CA. And finally, remember that the CA exams are still to be attempted on pen paper, not on the computer, like almost every other profession exam. This is actually one point I'm not too bigger fan of. I think ICAI should introduce computer-based exam, because in the real world now, everybody, whether you're a fresher or you're a partner in a CA firm, everybody uses only laptops. All other professional qualifications actually have become computer-based 100%. So put in the comment section if you think that the ICAI exams should also become computer-based, or should we continue with pen paper because our generation is still more comfortable using pen paper. But besides that, the paper format is the only thing which you need to work towards. Finally, when it comes to the fee structure, so long and short of it is that if you complete all the 3 levels, right, if you pay the ICAI body fees, it's approximately 50,000. And if you combine it with training fees of all 3 levels, depending on where you go for training, it can be anywhere between 2.5 lakhs total. So I would say the entirety of CA might be approximately 3 lakhs, which includes the body fees, which in turn have registration fees, exam fees, as well as the training fees and the study material. So I think it is one of those qualifications which has the lowest cost and the highest return if everything in the journey you do extremely well and you commit to giving those 5 years to CA. I think it's especially if you're at the early stages of your career, it's probably one of the best decisions. Finally, is this the right choice for you? Going back to the beginning of the video, guys, I always ask the first question, do you want to do CA or not? Because asking yourself, should I do MBA or CA? Or should I do ACCA or CA? That's not the right question. Because MBA, ACCA, CFA all have pros which are definitely unique to them, and they have in-turn cons. So what you should do is ask yourself about CA. As an example, after my 12th, I was in the field of commerce. Commerce students, if I wanted to get into finance or accounts, CA back then was my only option. But I didn't want to do CA for me personally, because I knew it would take a long time, and I was not sure that after 5 years, if I completed in 5 years, would I have continued liking the field, right? Coincidentally, it turned out that I do. It's just in a different format. But that time I was not sure. So time was my one constraint. And the other thing was, I knew everybody around me who had struggled in CA. So I knew that it wasn't going to be a easy and a short road. And I was not looking for a shortcut, but I was aware that if there is a better way to sort of fulfill my objective of earning a known qualification, which has almost the same value, if not equal to CA, I would rather go for that. And that's how I made my choice between CA to ACCA. But first and foremost, the question is, do you want to do CA? Because if that answer is yes, then hearing the other points will just confuse you, right? Go first for your dream and try and earn that qualification. However, people, like I said, have an issue with timing. So if you want time as your asset, then maybe an ACCA would be better. If you want eligibility as your asset, so the ideal time to start CA, and majority students started only after 12. I know very few who take it up a little later in life. However, if you are one of those, feel free, reach out. I will help you with a roadmap. But if you've crossed the 12th grade time, the chances are you're not going to take up CA. Once again, you can look at the other qualifications. Question number 3. Now, there is an other body which is called ICAI. Which body am I referring to besides the Chartered Accounting body? And finally, when it comes to the aggregate part, the passing rate, it's difficult for students to give, in today's world, 3 exams of one group together within a week and clear all of them, because each of them are difficult. So when students don't want to go through that grind, they prefer taking different qualifications which have a different approach, because only CA has this whole group and aggregate system. So there are multiple reasons what should help you decide if you want to pursue CA or not. So here's the final conclusion. If you have not given your 12th exam, or you've just given your 12th exam and you love numbers, right? You want to keep all your doors open, whether you want to work in India whether you want to work in a professional capacity, whether you want to start your own business, whether you want to go overseas, and you're not scared of putting in effort, I think go for CA, right? It's always going to satisfy your career needs. It's always going to be in demand. It's backed by the government of India in a sense, and it is the ruling power of finance and accounting bodies in India. So that's the reason you should do CA. Any other reason, late eligibility, time constraints, passing rate issues, then you can look at other options. I hope that this video has given you clarity on what hopefully the roadmap specifically for you, but also the other technical details of CA. And if we've missed anything, as always, leave it in the comments and reach out to us for any other help. So guys, I hope that gives you clarity about the CA qualification, especially with the new syllabus. But as part of a mega series, this is video 2 out of 7. We'll be releasing 5 more, hopefully to help you guys make a much more decisive decision when it comes to your career. So watch all of them before making your final decision.